You can feel it when you say when you love Mabele. Forever shine everything. Made for love.
Amandla. 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 Amandla Silo. Amandla Cindy. Amandla Kateo. Amandla Sister Vita.
Awakahleka kazoyalanga kahle umphinde.
Viva people living with HIV, viva. Viva people living with HIV, viva. Viva Prudence Mabele, viva. Viva Prudence Mabele, viva. Anginizwa, viva Prudence Mabele, viva. Amandla. Amandla. Thank you, comrades. Over to you, Sister.
Okay. Amanda! Amanda! You know, if Prudence was here, they go over like man. Because you know that's Amanda. You know, it's her day, comrade. Ilanga like today. We need to like act as if she's here. Yes. Amanda! Amanda! Viva the spirit of Prudence, Mabele, viva!
Viva!
Viva the spirit of Prudence, no bantu, no bantu, no bantu, Mabele, viva!
Viva!
Viva PHIV sector, viva!
Viva!
Viva all stakeholders, viva!
Viva!
Okay, thanks a lot, comrades. My name is Sandima Luka from Positive Women's Network and the Deputy Chairperson of the PHIV sector nationally. With my secretary here. She's going to introduce herself because okay, over to you.
Okay, my name is Bongile Chabalala. I'm the National Chairperson of Treatment Action Campaign and also the General Secretary of People Living with HIV, also the co-chair of SANAC, also a woman openly living with HIV, also and also and also.
Okay, thanks, Comrade Spongile. So today, me and Comrade Spongile, we are going to drive. I don't know, how can we call it? Is this a train or if we are captain of a flight or a ship? But we are the drivers, ne?
Yeah, we are the drivers.
Yes, yes.
Okubalulekile lokho.
Okubalulekile, we are the drivers of
Yeah.
this. Yeah. So if you want to climb to the next stop, say next time, eh? Then I will, yeah. Yeah, but show somewhere about student bus next time, so you can do the same. Then the captain will make sure that
We'll decide
will
whether you
decide
are
where-
jumping the ship or the
Oh,
plane or whatever.
Yes, 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 yes. Okay. Thanks, comrades. Today is a very important special day for South Africa, for the HIV sector, for even the family. You know, Prudence, I don't know how can I call it. She was our icon. No wonder yonke into yakhe yenzeka the day of Comrade Mandela. That is why he's here and he's here, she's here, you know. Yeah, yeah. So these are our icon. Today is her birthday. We are honoring her birthday in the theme of zero HIV stigma. So the program, comrades, is I think we will be sharing a program because I don't know, maybe the resources. Yeah, but we'll be sharing a program. It's in front of you. I'm not gonna like to say we're gonna like going through the program, but I will like us to call a comrade Orefnzo, let me say so Orefnzo, to open this event so that we can be able to move and able to talk. Thank you. Over to you, Remzo.
Thank you. The program directors, the family of Prudence Mabele. I don't know if the deputy minister is here. We were expecting her to attend. She's not here. Hopefully she will join us a little bit later. IPAC Vice President for Strategic Initiatives, Ms. Iman Sidibe. Is she here? Not. PWN family led by Cindy Shangas. I am very sure Cindy is here. I saw her. And then Swongile says Swongile Chabalala is here. She was here as part of the program directors, but she's also representing the chair of civil society, Steve Litsike. We have in our midst the PLHIV sector led by comrades Gluleki Zazin, greater CSF in general, development partners, esteemed guests, members of the media, and then the team from the SANAC Secretariat as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I am a messenger. I have been sent by the CEO to come and express a word of welcome to your own boardroom anyway. So you are most welcome. The purpose of today is twofold. The one part is about celebrating the life of the giant that Prudence Mabele was, a passionate social justice activist who made a huge contribution to the HIV response in South Africa and to other parts of the world. I personally was quite privileged to have known her and rubbed soldiers, rubbed shoulders with her. And the reason why I happened to know her was because of her work in the South African response for HIV, STIs, and TB. She has been widely recognized and honored in many international platforms for her work. Today's launch is yet another significant acknowledgement for her valiant efforts towards attainment of social justice. For people living with HIV, women in particular, children, key and vulnerable population, traditional health practitioners and disadvantaged communities. The other part of today's commemoration is about shining a spotlight on one of the most pervasive challenges against our efforts in HIV response, stigma. It is one of the most difficult hurdles to overcome. Using Prudence birthday to drive this initiative is indeed very fitting. She tackled the most difficult of issues, sometimes being a lone voice in the process. She also suffered criticism and attacks from various parties. However, her focus was always on the greater good for all of humanity. Wakwethu, Prudence was a true definition of imbokodo. She spoke truth to power, and she never shied away from challenging her own comrades within. Those are hallmarks of a genuine activist and great leader in general. Prudence Mabele faced many stigmas in her lifetime as a woman living with HIV, a traditional health practitioner who also believed in Western medicine, as a liberal and self-affirmed feminist, and as a woman who dated other women, as we know the vitriol thrown at LGBTI plus persons. As we move forward with the commemoration of this day for years to come until stigma is combated, we need to learn from our brothers and sisters who were and continue to be challenged as people living with or affected by HIV. We have witnessed their bold leadership and advocacy, their passion, resourcefulness, and relevance in communities. I would like us to honor and celebrate their stellar contributions to the HIV response, many of whom are with us today. But I also want to celebrate the other civil society sectors that continue to drive outreach programs through the various policy and action activations. We have seen the stellar work by the following sectors: children, faith-based, sex workers, traditional health practitioners, labor, disability, sports, arts and culture, and youth, just to mention a few. South Africa is blessed with a rich history of civil society at the center of the HIV response. Phenomenal work is being done in various communities by all 18 civil society sectors, addressing the needs of key and vulnerable populations. Today, we say, continue the fight, comrades, just like Prudence. Continue to speak up, inspire, but most importantly, embrace the most vulnerable among us. Stigma and discrimination, or its fear thereof, is still a reality for many people living with HIV and should be addressed. Both the successes and the failures of our past have taught us that we cannot prepare for or defeat stigma unless we tear down inequalities, promote people-centered, rights-based approaches, and work together with communities to reach everyone in need. As South Africa, we still have a long way to go. Hate speech, violence, and murders targeting key and vulnerable are still matters of concern, especially the human rights violations meted out against transgender people. The taboo that surrounds them is difficult to overcome since they are not accepted for who they are, neither by their families, their communities, or government for that matter. Discrimination and aggression are a stone throw away. We have to base our HIV response on pillars of solidarity, equality, inclusivity, and above all, human rights. Prudence Mabele was the embodiment of such principles. Let's honor her work through meaningful action. Our communities need our collective action to stop stigma. Now, more than ever, we move closer to Agenda 2030. As I conclude, allow me to express our sincere gratitude to IPAC and partners for having conceptualized this initiative. As SANAC and the country in general, we are truly humbled for having selected our Shero to the face of this campaign. Ms. Sidiwe will share more about the initiative when she speaks in the program. I thank you.
Thanks, Ref. Thanks very much for welcoming us and the powerful words. Comrades, I also want to, I'm told there are people online. You are all welcome, comrades online. So now, yes, I think we need to introduce ourselves.
Yeah, we did. That is why we are together driving this comrade Tandy. But before we called Cindy Siwe Shangase, you know, I just want to, this is not an apology, but I want everybody to understand that we are comrades. This thing of greeting who and who and who and who, as Tina, we don't know it.
Protocol.
The protocol is observed. We don't know those things. We just know Amanda and everybody's okay. And Viva. So thank you very much, Rev, for doing all the honoring for us, because that is not our language, and that was not Prudence language also. So this is us, we learn from her, will continue to be like her in some point. But I want just to point out few things that Rev, you spoke about, and you, as if you were in my mind for the past few days when I was thinking about Prudence and her journey, to say what she went through. No, I was scared to say we will come here and speak as if everything was well. Everything was smooth along the journey of Prudence. She faced so many challenges. You know, when I just Googled, because English is not my mother, I just Googled the word stigma, the meaning of stigma. And it says a set of negative or often unfair beliefs that a society or group of people have about something. The stigma associated with mental illness, the stigma of mental illness, the stigma of being poor, the stigma of poverty. And Mina, I will add to say a stigma of being a woman. That is the stigma that we are facing, and Prudence continue to face that stigma of being a woman. We are still stigmatized as women. We are still facing the challenges that Prudence faced. And Prudence was for women and young children. And if we are not talking about young people, especially young girls and women in this today, I think Prudence will beat us, and she will be turning in her grave. But as we are talking today, I think along the way, I'll be talking about the celebration of Prudence, where she is celebrating and where she's still turning in her grave and saying, these people are doing what is not right. I'm not intended to take over, but as I've said, and we said earlier, we are going to steer this ship, and this ship will steer in the right direction, because we have this tendency of saying all the good things when the person is no more. But when the person is here, we don't appreciate those people. We don't appreciate people when they are still alive. We don't appreciate their they are being the way they are. You know, Mfundisi just said that she was challenging, even if she can stand alone, challenge the whole civil society. She was that kind of a leader. She was a fearless leader. And some of us, we took from her. And we are continuing to fight because she taught us we need to do that. So I wouldn't like us, all of us here, to speak nice words as if everything was smooth. It wasn't smooth for Prudence. Even in her death, it wasn't smooth. It wasn't nice. Few comrades were with her. Other comrades, they have forgotten about her when she was in her deathbed. So as much as we are celebrating her birthday today, but I want us to remember Prudence for who she was and what she went through, and also reflect to say, what have we changed? What have we done better? What we haven't done better? So it's a reflection while celebrating the life of Prudence. Thank you very much. So now I'm taking over usisi lona uzobuya namakhotho wakhe because mina ngijajara vele ngifuza Prudence.
Out of order now.
I'm sorry. Now I'm going to call Miss Sindisiwe Shangase, the PWN Executive Director. She will be speaking about Prudence contribution to the stigma response. Over to you, sis. Kancane sekusele kancane, kancane sizophumelela. Kancane sekusele kancane, kancane sizophumelela. Prudence uyajika edrivini yakhe uthi bayangiyela laba bangijwayela kabi.
Katlego.
Uzokushaya ngempama uPrudence lapho uhlezi khona.
Okay, uyanilanda manje comrades.
Yeah,
asenzi kanje mzabalazweni. Prudence akalalanga
ngokuqe ngamadolo.
Prudence akalalanga. Prudence akalalanga ngokuqe ngamadolo. Prudence akalalanga ngamadolo akalala ngokuqe ngamadolo.
No, comrades, kubuhlungu.
Prudence akalalanga
ayukuqe ngamadolo. Prudence akalalanga ayukuqe ngamadolo. Yini lamadoda wafuna because ngumfazi. Nifuna sifake igender ne-patriarch.
Prudence akalalanga
ngokuqe ngamadolo.
Cindy and Comrades Bo boardroom. Aya ama comrades ayiphelanga lezo afuna kuba se groundini.
Akhumele itulo
Next year sizoyishaya.
impela ngonyaka ozayo la siyakhona izitulo ziqeda indawo. Viva PWN, viva! Viva Prudence, viva! Phambili ngabantu besifazane phambili. Phansi ngokuhlukunyezwa phansi. Phansi ngokuxwaswa phansi. Amandla. Comrades, sihlangene la namhlanje in this day to honor the greatest leader that we've ever seen in our time in the HIV response of this country, who is a woman, who has made so many sacrifices in her lifetime. This day is in honor of our great leader, our great sister and friend, Prudence Nobantu Mabele. In 1992, Prudence Mabele was born, Prudence Mabele was born in July 21, 1971, and she passed on in July 10, 2017. And in 1992, Prudence became the first woman to come out and speak about her HIV status. We all know during that moment, the environment in our country, people living with HIV were given counseling. They were given 6 months to live. People didn't even want to sit in the same room as we are today. They didn't want to share plates. They didn't want to share anything with a person living with HIV because of the misconceptions that were out there, because of the stigma. We had avoidable deaths because of HIV stigma. At that time, Prudence was one of those brave soldiers. And she came out and she said, I'm living with HIV. Back then, we used to say, I'm HIV positive. And it changed the landscape of this country. Please forgive me, I'm using my phone. So we know that stigma was shattering for people living with HIV during those days. Stigma created isolation and exclusion within families and communities. However, Prudence continued the struggle. She continued to participate in multiple campaigns for the next 25 years of her life. She really dedicated her life's work to fighting stigma against HIV, because it is the stigma that still prevents a lot of people from accessing treatment, that still prevents people from testing, that prevents people from disclosing and seeking the support that they need from their friends, from their families, and from communities. She fought for the rights of the most vulnerable women and children of this country. And at the time that she passed away, in 2017, she was already hailed as a global icon and a true South African. I like what Rev said, Shirowen. She reminds me of that cartoon character we used to watch when we were kids. When we were young, about 40 years ago, that's another thing as women and misconception. Some of us are not shy to share our age. About 40 years ago, there were no female heroes or heroines. There were Superman, there were all these muscular characters, you know, but there were no female heroines on TV. So we grew up watching this one female heroine, and her name was Shira. We remember her, they even translated it into our local languages, and she would come in and she would say, Mina ngingu Shira. So every time when Prudence walked into a room and she addressed people, she gave me the Shira vibe. And I identify her strength with the strength. As a child, I identified with Shira, which I could not see around. Prudence was known by her friends as Upru. For those of us who are younger than her, we called her Usis Pru. She set a precedent for courage to other women by discussing her HIV status, but she also set a courage even within a precedent for courage here in the SANEC space. She transformed so many things in this very room, in this space, and we will continue to do that, Spongile. You know, we can stand in a room alone, and we will stand in our beliefs and fight for our rights always. I will go into how her journey started with stigma in a bit more detail. We know that Prudence was born in Benoni, east of Johannesburg in 1971. She was just 18 years old when she contracted the HIV. Over the next few years, she threw herself into trying to break the silence around HIV stigma, founding the organization Positive Women's Network in 1996. She was instrumental and vocal on many struggles of the early days of HIV and AIDS. And I will note just a few. She actually maybe was part of most of the social movements that we are part of here. And I will start with one of the earliest. She was part of the team of people living with HIV that were coordinated through NAPWA first, pre-1998, to fight stigma and talk about HIV. But soon after, Ugugu passed away. And after Kuku's death, people like Prudence and other leaders like Abozaki Ahmad, they all came together and felt the need to start the Treatment Action Campaign. Prudence Mabele is a co-founding member of the Treatment Action Campaign. So Sbongile, she is your legacy, she is my legacy. Yes. So during that work, Prudence fought for prevention of mother to child transmission. And back then, she also fought even for the definitions to say, we shouldn't be saying it's mother to child transmission. That is a biomedical term, which is scientifically proven, and it is true. It is not disputable, but socially in our communities, we need to ensure that the programs we develop are social behavioral as well, so that change can happen, socially. In that instance, as women back then, us who are younger, we learned from Prudence that it's actually a prevention of HIV during pregnancy. Because the minute you say it's a prevention of mother to child transmission, you are assuming that the mother magically got the virus into her body and then she transmitted it to the child. You are not looking at the whole context as to how the infection initiated, and in a relationship where it is a heterosexual relationship and there's a child born, it starts with both partners. It could be from the father as well. So the father was left out, and as a result, women received more stigma and were blamed for children who were born with HIV. So the campaign to ensure that a PMTCT, back then we were using nevirapine, was accessible, was really at her heart. As a woman, she also wanted to be a mother. And she could not be a mother at the time because the stigma that is faced by women, because of the lack of PMTCT at that time, you would find that women, including Prudence, when they went to healthcare facilities to seek medical help for sexual and reproductive health, they would be forcibly sterilized. She would be told, you are living with HIV, you're not going to live long anyway, and you are also going to infect this child. Therefore, you do not deserve to have a womb, and you do not even deserve even to give us your consent. We will just take your womb from you. And if we can't take your womb from you, we will damage it to such an extent that you can never be able to utilize it again. So this became part of Prudence's struggle. They cut her cervix opening. That means Prudence could carry a child to about 7 months. And thereafter, because of the cut that was there in her cervix, she could not carry to 9 months term. And she lost a child during her journey in the fight for stigma and access to treatment. So we need to understand the depth of pain and struggle that Prudence suffered, and the level of courage that she had, to talk about HIV and fight for the rights of people living with HIV. And recently, yesterday, Usis Tandi was just sharing with me something also very significant, that Prudence, when she found her HIV status, she was a young woman. She was an HUIW because she was 18 and she was a student. She was in a university and she was ostracized in that environment as a young woman for telling lies and for accusing professors. So we really need to see how HIV affects all of us, and we should continue to fight for the rights of everyone. But it's also very important to have a gender lens and ensure that we are able to analyze the struggles of HIV in the context of women and how women live in society. So because of all of that, Prudence, she became part of the African Feminist Forum, which is one of the most progressive structures that is independent of women leaders across Africa from all walks of life, not just us as activists, but even business and government. It's a safe space for women to convene and to analyze power and see how we can transform power within the institutions that we survive in. And those institutions include our families, it includes our organizations, our SANEX, it includes our churches, it includes our schools, etc. And in that work, she ensured that in our space, we are able to design programs that are gender sensitive, that are able to recognize the vulnerable positions that women find themselves in and young women find themselves in. So with that said, I would like to say that Prudence herself, she identified herself as a grassroots feminist movement builder who left behind a mass movement of women living with HIV in South Africa under the banner of Positive Women's Network. And in her own words, she once said, I quote, open quote, in my network, okay, in my network, I encourage women to take charge of their lives and to hold policymakers accountable to implement the programs that serves women's needs. I have been privileged to be asked to represent different constituencies of people living with HIV, women living with HIV, women's rights activists, and I don't take this responsibility lightly. I have served on the South African National AIDS Council representing people living with HIV. So we all know how close the pale HIV sector was to her heart, how closely she worked with the Mlulegi, how close she worked with Silo, how close she worked with Jasi, how close she worked with Anele, with Spongile, the pale HIV sector of the time. So the pale HIV sector in this space of SANEC was her home. But Siyamazi Prudence, she never had one identity. So she also had a home within the women's sector. And she also transformed the women's sector agenda there as well to look at women living with HIV specifically and be able to see how programs could be developed targeting that specific group. We also know that Prudence had multiple identities. She was also a traditional healer who believed in Western medicine. And she became a traditional healer at a time when it was taboo to become a traditional healer and promote Western medicine. We are here today being able to sit as SANEC and as part of 18 sectors where that taboo it no longer exists. We are able to work in a coherent manner, looking into Western and traditional medicine. It's because of the courage of people like Abo Prudence, who said people in Africa have been using indigenous medicines to heal themselves when there were no healthcare facilities. The healthcare facilities came in a different age, but before then, people did have diseases and they were able to heal themselves. By saying that, we are not saying that traditional medicines heal or cure HIV. We are also not promoting that someone who's taking traditional medicines also takes antiretrovirals, because we don't know what the drug interaction will be and what the impact will be on the liver in terms of dosage. Until such time that we know such things and such research has been done, we can then make evidence-based recommendations. So she was very futuristic in her thinking. And we know that it is the traditional health practitioner sector here in SANEC that pushed that they become part of the research sector. And now the research sector of SANEC or SANEC CSF is led by a traditional healer, Ukokshila. So transformation has truly happened. But before all that happened, she was accused of promoting Western medicines over traditional medicines, to a point where the traditional health practitioner community felt so wronged by Prudence that they looked at her as a traitor. She once told the Peggy Sisa Health News site in 2013, and I quote her words, she said, I remember them coming down the street, toying, saying, Phansi ngo Prudence, Phansi. which means down with Prudence, down. But she stood for what she believed in. And she believed in the use of ARVs, and she continued to promote the use of ARVs during those times. From 2008, the landscape in South Africa shifted. Antiretrovirals were available. We now knew that the life expectancy could increase. The quality of life amongst people living with HIV was improving, but the stigma still remained. Prudence, as an activist, she continued her level best. She continued the fight. She continued marching on the streets. She continued being the voice that advocated against gender-based violence. She even participated in so many other movements, like she even challenged the Boko Haram in Nigeria. She challenged the former president of this country when he was the president, and she told him, step down, you do not deserve to be a president, during the case, the rape case. So this was a phenomenal woman. She was fearless. We also know that Prudence won multiple awards. I will not go into details on all the awards and all her accolades. Most of us are well aware of, but one that I will note, which is also part of her identity, was the LGBTIQ community. She also won the Philippa de Souza Award by the International Gay and Lesbian Human Rights Commission. So we can see that Prudence truly did embody key populations. So when we heard that IAPEC has decided, IAPEC together with the Fast Track Cities have decided to commemorate the birthday of Prudence Mabele through the Stigma, the Zero HIV Stigma Day, which is being launched today. We were truly excited. And we know that this initiative has also been endorsed by the GNP+. We know that it's been endorsed by UNAIDS. For South Africa, it is most fitting way to honor Prudence in a vibrant life and a legacy that she left behind. We know that the government, the US government and the UK government have both adopted this day as part of their government calendars for national awareness days, which is very important. And we want the South African government to publicly endorse this day. We want this day in South Africa to be celebrated as a day of commemoration on the 21st of every year in the same manner and the same seriousness that we give to World AIDS Day and to World TB Day. And asking everyone in this room to commit a pledge that we will push that day in this country will have the same status. And with that said, I would like to thank everyone for this opportunity. When Prudence passed away, she left Positive Women's Network. She left us to carry forward her legacy. And we continue to do that without fear. We continue to challenge power. We will continue to make people feel uncomfortable when we are seeing injustice. We will challenge government. We will challenge even our own comrades at times to fight for our rights as women, and we will not give up. The spirit of no surrender does not exist within us. We will push ahead until we find our space and in the table and we sit comfortably and our voices are heard. Amandla.
Thank you, Comrade Cindy. You know, sometimes guba difficult stopper director wako. You know, so good I director because we know you are trying to save your job. So, okay, thanks, Comrade Cindy. You were touching Gucci Prudence left EPWN, which is us. we are operating in 9 provinces. Some of those women who are operating in those provinces are here. Can I be just like ngibe nje out of order kancane, my co-chair, my comrade, yes, to ask leaders from the provinces, APWN, just to stand up so that babone ukuthi you are pushing this agenda, Prudence ayishiye behind. Without you, comrades from the provinces, I don't think PWN will be still alive. But because of you, City Amandla, can all of you stand up? I know that Western Cape a coordinator, she's not here, and Northern Cape. Okay, these are the women who are working, comrades, with a 0 budget, but they are still here. Amandla, Amandla. Yeah, this is our. Okay, thank you, comrades. Okay, in our agenda, we have okay. Just one, sorry, okay. Eh? Okay, okay, thank you. It's here. Okay, comrades, in our agenda, we were supposed to have Iman Sedibe, the president of EIPEC, but unfortunately, she's not here. But we will play the IPEC video immediately. Usindi seka aqedile comrade Cindy. Let me check that. Okay, this video is the video is for launching EIPEC, that is launching the zero stigma. So people online, they will be able to see the video, but inside their house, we will just make sure that we just listen. Yes, because of the setting, so it will be difficult for us to play the video here, but we will hear the message and the voices. Online, you are a lucky one. You sometimes not getting lunch, but today you are the one who are who are lucky. Okay, over to you.
Good morning to all. I would like to thank you all for being here today as we gather with great honor and humility to commemorate the first ever Zero HIV Stigma Day. As the International Association of Providers of AIDS Care, we are privileged to be a part of this historic event, standing together to address the pervasive issue of HIV stigma. On this occasion, we also pay tribute to the late Prudence Mabele, a powerful force for good in the fight against HIV. Her unwavering dedication and advocacy have left an indelible mark on the lives of many. Today, we celebrate her legacy and the impact she has made on the global HIV movement. Last year, IAPAC joined hands with like-minded institutions to create this HIV Awareness Day, specifically focused on combating HIV stigma. We recognize that we cannot truly end AIDS as a public health threat without addressing stigma in all its forms, especially the intersections that it touches. Zero HIV Stigma Day is not just a symbolic date on the calendar, it is a call to action. We stand united, hoping that this day will act as a catalyst for year-round action at the local, national, and global levels. Together, we can break the chains of stigma and create a world where every individual is treated, viewed, and respected as human first. In the spirit of this day, we proudly present our documentary, Human First, which shares the stories of 6 individuals with lived experiences with HIV. Among them are 2 heroes from South Africa who have braved adversity and inspired us with their courage. We dedicate this documentary not only to Prudence, but also to the countless known and unknown heroes in the HIV movement, whose resilience and determination have paved the way for progress. Let us envision a future where HIV stigma is eradicated, where compassion, understanding prevail over fear and judgment, Let us strive to create a world where individuals are empowered to live their lives with dignity, free from discrimination and prejudice. Today, we take the first step towards that future. Let us remember that each of us has the power to make a difference. By coming together, we can build a world that values every human life and embraces the principles of love, respect, and empathy. Again, thank you all for joining us in this pivotal moment. Together, we shall work tirelessly to ensure that every day becomes a day without HIV stigma. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before I give Comrade to Spongile, in your table, there's this small cloth, a purple one. Please, it's not like a serviette or whatever. Just keep it safe for you, for now. Yes, and then we'll tell you. I think Comrade Cindy will lead that. What are you going to do with this? Okay, over to you, my leader. Thank you. Two.
Yeah, but any allow my tablecloth, all right. Lanka people. Afana ne shuttle kamfundisi. Yeah, so no aphatheni kahle. Thank you very much, Sis Thandi. Thank you, Miss Sidibe. So we are moving on with our program colleagues. We know that all of us, as we are here, we are coming from families, and someone brought us to life. Someone played a role in bringing us up. And when I was Googling, because this is I'm Googling to these days. So when I was Googling Comrade Prudence Mabele, I've learned that she was not just a comrade because she was comrade. Yeah, she was born an activist. She was born from an activist family. Her mother and her father were in exile. So she was comrade, la Mabele. Hayi lama comrade nyana yabona lawa sisithabitha la nkafika manje sewafika sewasiqinela nyana. So now I'm going to call the input from the family. Mr. Sibusiso Mtaung is sitting next to me. He's very handsome young boy. Okay. But unfortunately, you were born later. Hey, man. Yabono, if you were born earlier, I was going to tell you things, but now you were born later. So, handsome Mr. Sibusiso Mtaung, welcome to the podium.
Amandla! Viva Sis Prudence, viva! Viva the spirit of Prudence, viva! Thank you for the opportunity to be here speaking in front of you, everyone. A mother, a leader, a mentor, a sister to all of you, and overall, a hero to the world. Our late mother, Prudence Nobantu Mabele, to her resting place. May she rest in peace. Today, we are all here again, gathering to celebrate and to honor her legacy, all of us. And then to all of you, comrades, soldiers, warriors that are fighting and spreading the message to all the women out there to have a voice and speak up in order to combat stigmatism around the world. I'm saying continue with the mission, and also God give you strength and pass on the fearless spirit that Prudence Mabele gave to you. Pass it on to other women out there so that you may combat this spirit of stigmatism. And then I would like to say thank you so much for having a sister like her. And then we thank you all, and we honor that we are here because of her, and then that we are part of her family. It's such a great honor to have a great icon like her in our family. I'm honored, and then we are all honored as a family because of that. And to you all, ladies and gentlemen, especially to you women, please continue spreading the spirit of fearlessness to other women so that they can have a voice to speak, because the struggle is not over. The war is not over. More soldiers are needed. We need female soldiers to combat this thing. So spread out the message out there. Contaminate, influence other women to have this spirit, the crazy spirit, tower, the fearless tower spirit that Sis Prudence had. May it pass on to other women so that they can combat this thing of stigmatism. And then I would like to thank you all for being here around with Garat. And then let's all celebrate and honor Omamkul Prudence. And then to you all, the leaders of these organizations, I would like to say, don't forget these words. An army of lions led by a sheep will always be defeated by an army of sheep led by a lion. She was a lion. She was strong. She was fearless. She was fearless. And I believe that through her, we'll always have great warriors and great women soldiers like her. And then thank you all. As a family, we are honored to be here with you. And then we say thank you. And may God bless you and continue to complete the mission. The struggle is not over. Keep on going, soldiers. Thank you.
Oh, siyabonga, handsome boy. I'm not an abuser. I was just appreciating life, you know, and I like you, the way you speak. You remind me of your mom cool. So with as we acknowledged in family, I would like all the family members to stand up so that in a room we know that they are here, and you gave us a shiro, a fearless woman, and we thank you because we know all of you, you played a role in the life of Prudence Mabele. Yeah, you're not born when. But now and I'm expecting you to be, especially the young ones. You must fish. The spirit of Comrade Prudence Mabele needs to live in you. We want to see you fighting for the justice of poor people on the ground. You can't let this go. She got it from her mom and father. She transferred to us and to you. So let the struggle continue. Amandla, siyabonga mndeni. Sibonga kakhulu. Unfortunately angizazi izithakazelo zakwaMabele ngabe ngiyathakazelela. Eh? Oh, bomabele amathe. Oh, hayi. Siyabonga. Seningahlala phansi bantu abadala siyabonga. So should I continue? Should I continue make comments? Okay, so now we are going to get reflections from the stakeholders towards ending stigma in our lifetime. I'm going to call the first representative of people living with HIV, Uslenda Siloma Kalipi. I always call her Slender. There's no person it's like this one. I'm not disclosing, but I'm just saying. But he's still slender. So slender ngakufaki ngenhloko uchairperson ne. Just stand up and come to the podium. And ungasukuma ngengoma yakho slender ngaze ngibuza ucula.
Amanda. Yo. Katle. Amanda! Viva, Comrade Prudence, Mabele, viva! Long live the spirit of Comrade Prudence, long live! Down with stigmatization and discrimination of people living with HIV and AIDS, down! Down with stigmatization of women in South Africa, down! Down with oppression of women on the struggle, down! Amanda! Amanda! I've got a rose, you know, and roses are given to people that our hearts admire, mostly. I'm gonna give this rose to someone that my heart admires, and I will explain later. Comrade Cindy, you know. Yeah. We did it a long time ago. It takes a strong woman, a very courageous one, to fill the shoes that you have filled. If Comrade Prudence is listening, I would like to say to you, Comrade Prudence, the legacy that you have left, you did not leave it only for the women on the struggle of HIV. You left it for all of us. I want to say to you, you fought stigma to the point where today people are living freely with HIV. In as much as we can complain to say stigma, it's still there. But the stigma that we are experiencing, it's the self-stigma too much that is destroying our people. And the reason behind that, Comrade Prudence, is because the legacy that you and others have left, it's being destroyed by a highness. Within the space itself, within the sector itself, within the civil society in general, within various governments, people looked at the space and saw the way of making man, Comrade Cindy. People came to the space and looked at us as people living with HIV, Comrade Prudence, as they were trying to destroy your legacy, and said, we can use this one, as they were busy undermining our intelligence, to collect the resources and build ourselves as we use their names. If you are listening to us today, on this day, I hope that you stand up to fight on behalf of the women that have stepped in your shoes. Because filling such shoes, it's not easy. You did it for the country when you stood up amongst the world and spoke about your status. Without fear, without favor. We're sitting here today celebrating your birthday, launching this day officially as a stigma-free day, where there's no even one politician. And to me, it seeks to say, we are embarking on a struggle of lies. We are embarking on a struggle that says, what will I benefit if I go there? We are embarking on a struggle that says, if I become part of them, how is it gonna build my profile? I think those are some of the things that we need to change. And they can't be changed by women only. They need to be changed by everybody on this space. This is the day, Comrade Mluleki, Chairperson. Allow me to say this. This is the day when we should be sitting here and saying, how do we build or launch Prudence Mabele Trust Fund? Mabele Trust Fund. How do we have a trust fund that will make sure that that legacy goes on, does not die? Every time when we talk about women being mostly affected by HIV. But when we are supposed to support these women, we are always taking a backseat. I wish this day could mean, it could have a different meaning to the people whom we are with on the civil society. Chairperson, as I'm about to sit down, I'm not attacking anyone. I'm being honest.
Yes.
Social development is destroying organizations, particularly organizations of women living with HIV. They are no longer there. The Department of Health has taken away the conditional grant that was meant to address issues of women living with HIV, including the stigma-related issues. Today, when the same women that we are calling statistics are supposed to apply as SRs, they don't qualify because they are supposed to apply as SSRs. They are underdogs because they are people living with HIV, women in particular. I wish today the tone can say, when we live here, as we are launching the day that speaks about no stigma, no discrimination, we will take a resolution, Comrade Mluleki, that says the family that gave out their daughter to fight for, not only for the country, but for the whole world, who left the Positive Women's Network. What is the commitment that we are bringing to the table, Comrade Tan, to say, if PWN, they can die, all these organizations, it will remain. And as the sector for people living with HIV, because I think Positive Women's Network is the only organization that speaks to 100% women living with HIV. What is that we are going to do moving forward, Comrade Sibongi? To say, we stop oppressing these women, but become part of their voices. Because every individual, utsalwa ke mosadi, uzalwa umfazi. Ufakwa umfazi siswini, noma ungaba indoda waba yini. You can't divorce being the product of a woman because you were carried by a woman for 9 months. Let us stop oppressing this woman and make sure that we go out there. Comrade Prudence, 100 facilities now have 400,000 defaulters, the HIV today. It's because we are unable to go to the streets. You never fought this battle in the boardroom. And as we are launching this day, we were supposed to be in the stadium. Buses were supposed to be full there. We should be celebrating this day saying, what is that we are going to do about those 400,000 people who disappeared from the system? But we are not talking about that. It's because hospices have reopened again. Those step-down wards in hospitals, they've reopened because people are sick, people are wearing pampers. It's because of stigma and discrimination that is again attached to people living with HIV. The question is, what are we going to do when we move from here, chairpersons? Let us not embark on the struggle of resources, but the struggle of change. I thank you.
You know, Aboslanda, sometimes you don't have to give them a podium because they always remind us reality. I'm touched as I'm sitting here when Slender is talking. I'm sorry, comrade, I'm used to call him Slender. We are suffering as women leaders. We are oppressed. We are going through a lot. 2 days ago, I was in bed, decided not to wake up because I was depressed. And I felt like I'm fighting a losing battle, especially after reading that email of 400,000 people that we are losing. And I asked myself to say, "Kahle kahle, what am I doing? Why I'm here?" And I tried to speak to a few people, including my mom. And she said, "Sibongile, you're doing a lot. But you must remember that you have children. And when you die, TAC and your comrades will come and sing, bury you, and then go. They will only remember you that day they feel like they want to remember you. After that, they will forget." And that's what we did with Comrade Prudence. We always remember Comrade Prudence when we want to take shine or when we want to shine somewhere. But when we are fighting, we forget about her. And we should say sorry to Comrade Prudence. Sorry to the family. I'm not promising that we'll come and visit you every day. But this is a reality that we are living. We are suffering as women in South Africa. We are stigmatized for being women leaders. There are men who are saying, "When and it's not easy, colleagues. It's not easy. Sometimes you wake up while you feel like, no, I don't want to wake up. But there'll be that message from one woman who will be saying, "You know, we are with you." And that message will come and say, "Ish, seems I need to continue to do something." But what I'm trying to say, Comrade Silo, what you said here, it touches me personally as a woman, touches me as a leader, it touches other women, because I know wherever every woman who's sitting here, every language, if we can sit here and talk about how are we struggling, it's not easy to lead an organization and be a single parent and lead in the family if you are married. Because once you are in this space, everyone thinks you are a millionaire while you don't have anything. When there's a funeral at home, we are expected to lead that funeral without nothing. We are not saying we want to be rich. I'm one of those women who are supporting PWN and proud to say, even if when they're not getting along, I'm behind the scene, I'm like, talk to each other. Talk to each other. Tandu will come and say, "Hey, things are not going well." Talk to it. Cindy, "Hey, things are not going well." Talk to each other. Because that's the only way we can fix our problems. That's the only way we can support each other as women. But what hurts me most, colleagues, is that the stigma that Comrade Silo are talking about from men, it starts with women. We are the ones that we are killing each other. We are the ones that we are pulling each other down. We are the ones that we are stepping each other at the back. And we allow men to use us to fight against each other. I'm not sure, Sister Bita, how are we going to solve this problem of women? But one thing that I've learned from Mrs. Prudence, say it as it is. And I do say it as it is. Mount Dinilum Dinil. Prudence will call you in a crowd and say, hey, Wazala, come and account. Salala. Will never go behind your back and say, hi, pelos bongile what. Several times when she called me and say, Nitulelen, I'm waiting for you to say, and we are going to that meeting, we are going to fight with Uzban Banyan. Let's go. So until we get to that, women, until we learn to talk to each other, not call out each other. I don't like this thing of calling each other out, because when you call somebody out, you're destroying that person. But when you talk to the person, we are building the person. Yes, we are not saying when a woman did something wrong, we should not say anything. But let's stop calling each other without evidence. You know, there's one woman, which Mina, I would like to give a rose. I know, Cindy. I would like to give a rose to Sister Tabitha. I give you a purple one. Yeah, I will give led by example. Sister Tabitha, you are getting this rose from me because you are that kind of a woman. When there is something happening, you pick up a phone and say, what is happening? Can I hear from you? And you give an ear. Sometimes you say, Sisi, let's go out for tea. Let's talk. Let's vent. That's what we need. And then another rose goes to somebody special. I will tell you why. I'm giving her also another. I'm not sure whether these roses have, there was something planned for them. Sbongile, this is your rose. Ubito, we met at TAC. Yeah, we met at TAC. I was elected as the provincial chairperson without a laptop, without anything, and I was expected to do so much. This woman gave me her laptop and she supported me. And she said, Sbongile, you can do it. There are a lot of women that I can count. I would like to give roses to many women who are here and not here, but I will count these two. So they are saying I'm talking too much, and that's a mistake that you did by putting a chairperson as the program director. So without wasting any time, because the chairperson of civil society, Comrade Steve Mabalane, is not here. Steve Mabalane, hey, you're married now. Now, Steve Litzike. Sorry, Comrade Steve. Oh, she will kill me. I'm so sorry, my leader. She couldn't make it because she had a class today. So I was supposed to speak as a co-chair, but because they made me a program director, we have Comrade Maps, Mabalane, Mfundisi. The name is Mabalane kahle kahle. The surname is Mfundisi. He's not a reverend. To speak on behalf of CSF. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade Sbo. I'm not like Bosilo and do the Amandla stuff, but Amandla. No, it gives me great pleasure to represent the civil society on behalf of the chairperson. And maybe it was supposed to happen like this, because when we re-established the civil society to what it is, as a better organized formation, I had the pleasure of serving with Comrade Steve, who was the chair, and Comrade Prudence, who was the deputy co-chair, and I was with her as the co-deputy chair. But about Prudence, I mean, where do I start? So for me, I would start at the end of her journey, which is when I started to interact with her. When I started participating in SANAC was in 2009. I found our chairperson, Dr. Victoria Matesele, there, because SANAC was a platform of important people. And we had to shake it a little bit so that it represents more the people on the ground. So the Prudence that I'm talking about at end of her journey is because before then, when she was in trenches, when she was making the news, reading about her, the Mail and Guardian, the struggles that she was waging. She was, you know, a hero I didn't know. And when I started participating in the AIDS Council, I got to know her, and she used to call me Mabele. Okay. Prudence, I'm not Mabele, I'm Mabele. But throughout, to her, I was Mabele, and I came to accept that. So I'm going to be brief because I'm talking about a person who was a peaceful rabble rouser. She was also a woman open living with HIV. And in that process, she was an embodiment of the PLHIV sector, but she carried with her the spirit of being a woman. She was also a traditional herb practitioner, but those who are in civil society would not know. But those that were very close to her, they will know that she is also an active participant in that particular space, because her journey, her fight was about, you know, addressing issues affecting people living with HIV as a woman. All these other things that defined her were important, but the importance was in the spaces that they needed to be known. As has been said, she was also a, you know, LGBTQI person, and you know, she didn't have to explain it. So those who knew her, they knew that part of her. But those of us who served with her, we saw, I think people would know, Prudence was very stylish. She was not as disorganizedly dressed as I am. She was very stylish. But also she was a humble and yet a no-nonsense human being. In the many engagements we had, in the many fights, and when we say fights, disagreement on approach, she will just tell you the way it is. Whether you're a tanda or you don't tanda it, is not Prudence's problem. And she will tell you straight, and she will just move on. It's done and dusted. You had her, and that's basically, you know, the person she was. She was also loud, and her presence was felt by everyone. You know, the newcomers at the civil society, those that were there, they knew that there was Prudence in the room. Even when she arrived at the meeting and she was late, she will just greet while Steve is addressing the meeting there. She will come down, and that was Prudence. But as I go towards that end of Prudence, and I'm happy Tabitha is here, the other colleagues are here, but because I come from the sports, arts, and culture sector, in one of the makeshift quilt range here that Sanak made out of t-shirts of various organizations. There's a t-shirt from my sector, which is about Ardlale Safe. Now in 2012, when Sanak CSF was redefining itself and the NSP, the new NSP was launched during that particular period, we had the Ardlale Safe. The Prudence that you know was also a football player. We organized the soccer match at Meadowlands Stadium. And in the team, there was Prudence Mabele and Steve Letsike. They were playing for the CSF team. But it was a campaign also supported by UNAIDS, because from that journey of launching the Ardlale Safe campaign, in 2013, South Africa hosted the 2013 Africa Cup of Nations. And we carried that particular campaign into that particular sphere. And linking to what we are talking about, stigma. And from the lessons and the journey that we were experiencing from Prudence, UNAIDS assisted our sector to develop a public service announcement that was broadcasted on SABC and on ETV. But it was based about one of the people that used to be part of our sector, a former football player named Thabang Libisi. And it was a story told by her mom about what killed Thabang. Because when Thabang was sick in hospital, because of the stigma that we carry, you know, the media was up in arms about the cause of Thabang's illness initially and, you know, his death. And the most, you know, heart-wrenching thing about it was that whilst he had finished playing football, he was part of a group of former football players who also were having media friends. They used to play Friday, you know, five-a-side soccer. And the people who were closest to Thabang, who thought they knew him, who were his friends, none of them knew that Thabang was HIV positive, because he hid it from them because of the fear of stigma. So the mom said, what killed him was not HIV, it was stigma. And it links to this particular day. We need to elevate it to beyond boardrooms and soccer stadiums, to our day-to-day work, so that it also gets to what Nelson Mandela Day is about, which must be an everyday thing. We must do things that ensure that we deal with internal stigma. We also deal with external stigma, which is the biggest problem that you know, we have in South Africa today. So we are inspired. We have not forgotten. Comrade Thandi, Prudence is here. She's here with us. And I know in heaven where they are, he's with one of the people that they were in the trenches with, who's best known to all of you, Andrew Musani as well. Because a combination of Prudence and Andrew Musani was a concoction that will put you to sleep and wake you up at the same time. So we have a program, colleagues, the Communities Matter Human Rights Program that civil society has done, which is implemented by the various sectors. Of course, it's dependent on availability of resources. But beyond the resources, we must continue to implement it, to continue to document and respond to those violations that will help us deal with what this day that we are commemorating is about. It's about ensuring that we attend to and address issues affecting HIV through fighting stigma. And when we have won the war against stigma, the issue of the 400,000 people that you were talking about should really be an issue about those who are employed and are not doing their work to provide medication. But it should not be about their attitudes that they bring to the workspace to disable people from actually even wanting to interact with that particular space. So as civil society, we have taken away from the family the best days of Prudence, and for her to remain a memory, a legacy, we just need to do what we can with what we have, where we are, to change the trajectory of HIV so that come 2030, it is not a rhetorical statement that we want to end AIDS by 2030. It becomes a reality because our collective actions would have actually ensured that we get then in those collective actions, Prudence contribution must be, high up there because we all know about it. And it is the things that we would have done that will ensure that we're not having another day of pictures, of being online, of celebration. It's a day of reminding us of our commitment to do good for humanity. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thanks, Comrade Maps. When you have activists and running a platform, kuba difficult, and bese uyacabanga ukuthi konje bakhuluma ngobani about Prudence. Sometimes you like give Prudence 5 minutes, you're at a 0. So yeah, so it's difficult for me to say, hey, stop, because I know ukuthi naye bekazoyenza njalo. So yeah, comrades, we are proceeding with our agenda. For now, I'm going to call Comrade Lindiwe Mahlangu with her partner. Before I call them, Comrade Silo Slender, okay, Ageko. You like touch a lot of things about that talk about PWN. We are coming from far and ngendlela ebuhlungu difficult. It is not easy to operate with a 0 budget. And the stigma that you are talking about for Tina as PWN, EBCs are straight, Gitina as women. But I saw the flowers like Ahamba, Comrade Cindy, my director. I want to say thank you to Comrade Umluleki from NAPWA, the director of NAPA and the chairperson of the sector, EPHIV sector. While as PWN, we're like, I don't know, how can I say, having nothing. And even we didn't have even bank account offices. When I want to talk about Comrade Umluleki, it's like I'm like about to cry, because as a man, as he is, he didn't say, no, this organization is for women. I'm not gonna support you. He took us and put us under his arm and give us the office. It was in Jimiston. And he also assists us. We don't have even bank accounts, but he assists us with the money office splash for hope. Then she said, no, Sister Andy and Cindy, you can put your money in our bank account. We will assist you. We'll pay your service providers. And as PWN, that is where we able to have an audit report, because Tabita and other developmental partners, Susie, you know that when you want to give us money, you start with the audit report. You want to see what is operating and how we clean now. But because of UNAPWA, Comrade Nduleki, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, so I will ask the director of PWN to give Comrade Mluleki the rose. Yes, yes. Yeah, it's not like him, but I only focus to Comrade Mluleki because, you know, if you don't have an office, it's difficult to call yourself an organization. So yeah, and we also have a comrade Umabalane, who are like silently so assisting PWN. Comrades, we thank you very much. Thank you. Ningas lash in access. Yeah, the director will do the same. Okay. Yes. Yeah, and no, thank you very much, comrades. Angeke ngisho ukuthi usincede kuphi but uyazi siyazi. Yeah, angeke ngidisclose leyo. But ayikho like ukuthi i-wrong. Yes, i-wrong i-right njalo ngisho njalo. Okay, thank you. Let me call comrade uLindiwe from comrade Lindiwe, she's a coordinator from Gauteng. She's going to talk about, we know in our country talk about EU equals to you. So she's going to talk about the importance of EU equals to you, the importance of taking your treatment, the importance of the adherence. Comrade Lindiwe, and yeah, your floor is yours, and your partner is Mr. Ngozi. Okay, over to you, Comrade Lindiwe. Omunye ke uPrudence ke. Hayi, angeke ngisho kakhulu. So ixoxa ngenye ilanga. Hey.
Amandla ngawethu webafazi masibambane. Amandla wethu webafazi masibambane. Kudala sisebenzela kwanele. Kudala sisebenzela kwanele. Hello, Comrade Mluleki. Is it afternoon already or is still morning? Oh, okay. Good afternoon, everyone. As Mamtandi said, I'm Lindiwe Mahlangu, coordinator of PWN in Gauteng. Yeah, English is not my strong language because I'm working in the field where I'm exposed to Zulu every time, but I'm forced today to speak English. Is English, ne? Yeah. My Usistandi, as she introduced that, I'm here to speak about EU equals to you. But firstly, I would like to acknowledge this day. Every year on this day, I'm celebrating two women in my life, my mother and Prudence Mabele, because my mother was born on this day as well in 1952. So this is a big day in my life. And as I'm standing here, I am a product of Prudence Mabele as well. And I think I couldn't stand here and speak about EU equals to you without being a product of Prudence Mabele. Because at first when I joined PWN in 2005. I was just young in the HIV industry where I couldn't even tell someone that I'm HIV positive, but through Prudence Mabele's education and being there for us, I when I met Mr. Nkosi in 2013, I was very bold to say I am living with HIV. So if you are scared of HIV, you can pass on. I will be staying it. And then fortunately enough, Mr. Nkosi said, Mama, akekho umuntu ongagula emhlabeni. Then that made me to see that he is a man indeed. So when I met Mr. Nkosi, I was HIV positive and he still negative even today, because yes, after 10 years. So Mr. Nkosi is the partner that is always supporting me through thick and thin. And I remember when I went to the hospital in 2017, because as who touches Cindy, who touches the sterilization for women who living with HIV. I'm part of that program as well, because I'm the one who was sterilized as well. Mr. Nkosi was there to support me. He never discriminated me. And when is my time for tablet, if I'm not home, he will call me at 10 o'clock to say, Mama, wathathile amapilisi wakho. So yes, I'm very proud of you, Mr. Nkosi. And I think you can be bold enough to go out there and tell other men how to support your partner if she is positive. But now he is so not into people. Yes, but then the importance of taking your medication, it's protecting not only you, it protects the person that is next to you. Because if I couldn't take my ARVs every day, if I couldn't adhere to my ARVs every day, I couldn't prevent the man that is sleeping next to me every night. So through that program, I'm very happy to say You Equals to You is working. Let us go out there and encourage all the people that are taking the ARVs to say, adhere to your treatment, make sure that you have partners in the house or families that can support you. But because at sometimes you feel like I don't want to take this. It was my birthday on the 14th. I didn't want to take it. I was like, no, today I don't want to take ARVs. It's my birthday, but because we know where we're coming from with ARVs. So yeah, it's our daily struggle, but because of we have that mindset to say, I want to live for people, I want to live for my country, I want to live for my community, I want to live for my family. You are going to take your ARVs every day. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you, comrades. Without the wasting of time, let me call our development partners. I will start with Susan Jett from PEPFAR. Viva, comrade Susie, viva! Comrade online, we are still with you. We saw your messages. We will include in the reports. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I am humbled to be here today. This is just so inspirational. When I walked in, I said, I wore the wrong mascara. It is not waterproof. And that has proven to be the case. This has been like going to church, right? So motivational, incredibly humbling, and just beyond inspirational. And I am humbled to be here today with you all on the first Zero HIV Stigma Day, and particularly to be here with the family and with so many people who worked alongside Prudence and who have learned from her and who have been inspired by her and whose lives have been improved because of her. And not just because of her, but because of all of those of you who are in this room. Because you are activists. Because you have continued to move things forward. And not just continued, but you were alongside her and alongside others for years and years and years. And that continues. And your activism and your solidarity and your just courage is absolutely inspirational. So I want to recognize the family of Prudence, Mabele, who are here in this room. Thank you so much for joining on this momentous occasion. Thank you to our chairs or directors, whatever we're calling you in this case, because you're both such inspirational and courageous women. And you continue to have that spirit. And to all of those who are on the speaking panel, you share that same activism and that same spirit. Thank you. Thank you. And to so many of you who are in this room. So today, as we gather here to mark the launch of the International Zero HIV Stigma Day, I'm here on behalf of the US government and PEPFAR. It is my privilege and my honor to stand before you as we collectively take a significant step toward eradicating the stigma surrounding HIV and AIDS. For the past decades, HIV has been a relentless adversary, affecting millions of lives and leaving a profound impact on communities and societies worldwide, and especially here in South Africa. We acknowledge the tremendous progress made over the years in the response to HIV and AIDS, but our work is far from over. We are not done. We acknowledge that stigma and discrimination have remained formidable barriers in the response to HIV. Stigma has not only exacerbated the burden of HIV, but has also stripped away the dignity and human rights of those living with the virus. The consequences of HIV stigma are far-reaching, and they undermine our collective efforts to counter the epidemic. It prevents individuals from seeking testing, from seeking treatment and care. It perpetuates fear and discrimination, and it creates barriers to accessing essential services. Earlier, it was mentioned that 400,000 have been lost to care, and that's just in 100 facilities. What are we going to do about that? We know it's almost 2 million people who are currently living with HIV here in South Africa who are not on treatment. How are we going to move past that? What are we going to do? And you all asked that earlier. You mentioned that. To achieve an AIDS-free generation and to achieve an end to HIV as an epidemic, we must address the roots of stigma and work together to eliminate it. Today, as we launch the International Zero HIV Stigma Day, we are sending a resounding message of solidarity, of unity, and of empathy. As US PEPFAR, we pledge our unwavering support, investing resources, expertise, and continued collaboration to ensure its success. Together, we declare that no one should face discrimination or judgment because of their HIV status. Together, we affirm that every person living with HIV deserves love, understanding, access to quality healthcare, and the opportunity to live a long, happy, and healthy life. To the countless individuals and organizations at the forefront of this movement, your dedication and resilience are commendable. We are grateful for your tireless efforts and will continue to stand shoulder to shoulder with you in the pursuit of a world without HIV stigma. Today, we call upon governments, civil society organizations, healthcare providers, faith leaders, and individuals everywhere to join hands and commit to the cause of zero HIV stigma. In conclusion, let us remember that together, we possess the power to shape a future that celebrates diversity, inclusivity, and acceptance. Thank you, and let us march forward united in our commitment to an HIV stigma-free world. Viva HIV stigma-free. Viva.
Thank you very much, Susan. Okay, please allow me to call upon Comrade Tabita from UNAIDS, our comrade. Yes. Follow, follow, dololo. Amanda! Amanda! Viva, 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 sex worker sector, viva. Okay, thanks, Katlego. When someone was talking about Prudence, stylish, yeah, and I was like, okay, ukhono moya. Yes, next to me. Hayi ke uyayenza ke into yakhe njalo makagqokile nje kuna this wow. Uyayibona? Hayi ke bekanjalo ke no sisters. Hayi uyasikhumbuza nje yena. Amandla.
Because that's the first thing I remembered when my country director requested that I speak today. Prudence was stylish. So I had to think about what I was going to wear, which hair I was going to wear. And unfortunately, I ran out of a lip color because she loved purple. So I don't have a purple lip color. Otherwise, I would have, my lips would be purple by now. If there is a moment, I don't know when it's going to end. It's a prayer item that just won't leave my list, is that when we talk about, when I see Prudence's picture, I'm normal, I'm still myself. At the AIDS conference, I was not prepared for that. So when I walked in and saw it, I quickly ran out because I was with people I did not know. And I did not want to be vulnerable with people I did not know. And it took me back to, because I've been running away from mourning Prudence, and I admit that. When she passed, it felt like a mistake. You know, when God makes a mistake, you're like, God, this is the one mistake you made. Fix this mistake. When Mluleki called me, because Mluleki told me about the passing of Prudence, I was driving, I was at Hatfield coming to Sanak, and Mluleki called me. And that big robot, and I don't remember how I drove until I got to Sanak, and then I drove back, and I couldn't be at that meeting because I was waiting for Mluleki to tell me that, sorry, man, sis, it was just a bad joke. And when we went to the memorial service to Prudence's house, I still felt, why are these people at your house? Can you just show up and tell people to leave your house? Because this is not supposed to be. So I kept it together and I still did not break down until November 2018, the International AIDS Conference in Amsterdam. I decided to go to Women Now, because I thought Women Now was just going to be a normal conference, women are gathering, and I saw the agenda. Again, I missed the beginning of the agenda that was a celebration of Prudence's life. So I walk into, so they had it in a special
a hotel. And as I walked in, and I heard her voice because they had a video. And if it was not for a beautiful, angelic white woman, tall woman whose name I still don't know, because I was literally almost falling and she caught me and I waited for that part of the program to be over. So even today when I walked in here and I saw her picture, so it's just a death that I struggle with all the time because Prudence was different people to each one of us. And I think if there was a person she scolded the most, it was me. She would wait for everyone to walk because I have this bad habit of coming just before the program starts. And Prudence would stand out there and be like, come here, come here. Wozala, what are you doing here? I'm like, no. She's like, we are fighting here. You are not invited. Leave. And I would go. She would say, Kuzo shuba manch, stelu hampi. Because this is bread and butter for you. You are not here as an activist. You are here as a bureaucrat. So walk. That was Prudence. It was worse when because I've been with this family, even with my children. So when I was pregnant with my last child, she often said, what are you doing here? Go home. Why are you running? And then the baby was born. She, why are you not at home breastfeeding? Leave. So Prudence was just a special human being and a sister. I'm here because I have been sent, because I'm like everybody and I can go on. So on behalf of my country director, Ma'am Eva, who could not be here, first she extends her apology. She has a medical appointment to attend to, so she could not be here today. So she asked me and my colleagues to be here. So it's myself, Ndicheni was here not too long ago, and then there's Zinat, our communications specialist. I don't know if you know Zinat. Zinat is here. Please stand, Zinat. You see, I'm tallest now in the country office. So you agree. And I'm wearing techies today and I'm still tall. Thank you, Zinat. On behalf of my country director, thank you for the opportunity to deliver a message of support on behalf of UNAIDS, because UNAIDS was family to Prudence. Prudence did not need, like you all don't need an appointment to get to UNAIDS, to the people you need to be speaking to on matters that are important to you. The creation and launch of a new International Awareness Day on Zero HIV Stigma in celebration of the vibrant life and the legacy of the late South African AIDS activist, Prudence Mabele, the first Black South African woman to publicly share her HIV status, is most befitting. UNAIDS pledges to continue advocating for the rights of women and children living with HIV and against gender-based violence in the name of our colleague and dear friend, Prudence Mabele's lifetime's campaigning. HIV-related stigma, the irrational or fear-driven negative attitudes, behaviors and judgments towards people living with HIV, their partners and families and key populations, and HIV-related discrimination, the unfair and unjust treatment of a person or a group of people based on their real or perceived HIV status are widespread. They are persistent barriers to addressing the AIDS and TB epidemics, restricting access to prevention, testing and treatment services for those most at risk and those in need. According to the UNAIDS 2023 report, people living with HIV who anticipate high levels of stigma are 2.4 times more likely to delay enrollment in care until they are very ill. You will recall that we launched the Global AIDS, we launched the Global AIDS updates last week, and this is statistics from that report. Eliminating of all forms of HIV-related stigma and discrimination is fundamental to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals targets by 2030, including the goal of ending AIDS as a public health threat. In 2021, the world set ambitious law reform targets to remove criminal laws that are undermining the HIV response and leaving key populations behind. Recognizing discrimination as a critical element in the response, countries made commitment that by 2025, less than 10% of countries would have punitive legal and political environments that affect the HIV response. The most successful HIV responses put people first. We know this. They confront inequalities and uphold human rights. The removal or non-enforcement of laws that target people from key populations and concerted efforts to end HIV-related stigma and discrimination are high priorities. Breaking down HIV-related stigma and ending discrimination are critically important because they prevent people from seeking HIV prevention, testing and treatment services. Discrimination in healthcare settings is one of the major obstacles to ending the AIDS epidemic as a public health threat by 2030. However, beyond the healthcare sector, HIV-related stigma and discrimination are found in every area of our social lives, from inside our families and communities to educational and workspace settings, and within the justice system itself. HIV-related stigma and discrimination are also exacerbated during humanitarian disasters and in emergency settings. Where people cannot or will not access health services due to stigma, they are less likely to be tested for HIV at all, let alone in a timely manner to ensure that they benefit from the early initiation of treatment. Similarly, where people living with HIV start treatment, discrimination can lead to them discontinuing treatment, which may diminish adherence to treatment. In many countries, stigma and discrimination in work settings remains very high. People living with HIV have higher unemployment rates than the national average, and lack of access to work increases the vulnerability of people living with HIV and the affected communities. Lastly, as we join, as UNAIDS, we join the concerted global effort to harness the combined power of governments, civil society, bilateral and multilateral donors, academia, and the United Nations to co-sign the HIV-related stigma and discrimination to history. Thank you.
Oh, yakhuluma le. Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Sister Bita. Kunzima. You know, usikhumbuza besizama ukufala le pain, but now uyayivula sis. Askis man. Xolo. So without wasting any time, I will call upon the lady that I gave a rose, Miss Bongile Nkosi. She's working for JNP Plus. She grew within the ranks of the civil society. Angeke ngize ngizikhuluma eziningi ngoba bazothi abantu ngiyachoma yabona. So over to you, sis. Kahle ucela ingoma Sibongile. Yeah, serious yo.
Amanda. Amanda. Thank you very much, Sibongile. So first of all, I just want to correct my comrade Mluleki here, because we were put under development partners. And I just want to clarify that I come from the global network of people living with HIV. And therefore, we are not development partners. We are actually the community, because the global network of people living with HIV, it is run by people living with HIV, trans people. We have sex workers in the organization that are working with us. We have people from the LGBTI community and people who use drugs. So we are actually a diverse group of people that have come together in the HIV response, where we continue to advocate globally for the JIPA principle, for the involvement of people living with HIV in policy processes. But on another thing, we continue to actually work with our networks on the ground, you know. And I must say to the sector here, I started with the global network 2 years ago. And one of the big things that we still really trying to push is to make sure that our partnership is strong. And I'm here just to commit to that commitment again. And so therefore, I'm asking after this, we find ways to actually meet so that we can actually strengthen our partnership, because we have an office in Cape Town. And I do believe that one of our biggest goals as the global network is how do we make sure that we build a stronger partnership in South Africa, because we are in South Africa. So I just needed just to highlight that to the partners. So, you know, I remember Prudence, and I always laugh when I remember Prudence, because I've been dabbling in and out I grew up at tech. So when I look at Usbongile and I look at Sister Andy, and then I look at people in the room and I'm like, I'm actually getting old, because now all of you are getting much older. So it just shows that time has really moved, and I've dabbled between media and the civil and the communities. And I remember each time I would meet Prudence. The last time I met Prudence was at the AIDS conference in 2016. And I'll tell you why, because Prudence was one activist who always came to the newsroom. Where each conference where we are, you would see Prudence walking in. And I usually remember Prudence really as a servant leader, because she was able to tap into different spaces for influence. The fact that every journalist wanted to speak to Prudence was such an important aspect of advocacy, for somebody to actually have so much power in every space that they walk in. So I think it's such an important day today, because one of the speakers said something so incredible, that today this is really the first day, the first recognition of HIV, of the Zero HIV Stigma Day. We have the Zero Discrimination Day in March that is usually commemorated, and we have events, we remember discrimination, but there isn't a day that actually honors HIV-related stigma in the world. And today really it's such an important day, and it's so profound that it's also launched at Prudence's birthday, because it actually shows us that this day, may we actually remember it for what it is, because it is a call to action. And I hope that when we do actions around this day, we also remember Prudence, because Prudence left such a legacy in South Africa, but also globally. So what does this mean for us? I think one thing about Prudence was a visionary, right? And I've heard today we've spoken about the complexities of organizing and some of the challenges that we have in organizing. And I just want to highlight that struggles are complex, you know, and as human rights defenders, we know this. We know how hard it is. We know that we often are not supported, you know. When you look at work around stigma, it was actually, the communities have been doing the work around stigma reduction. So when the world is now commemorating Stigma Day, we've been actually on the ground every day working on stigma. But I think it calls onto something, because for the first time, if the world is recognizing such an important action that we all do, this is really, really a big win for all of us. That now currently, you know, people that are sitting with resources are now recognizing the importance of addressing stigma. I think we've made so much progress when it comes to treatment. But I think we've realized also that treatment alone is not going to get us to our goals in 2030 of ending AIDS. And again, I just want us to, I really want to take us there, because all we ever wanted as people living with HIV in all our diversity is to live a quality life. When you think about a sex worker, when you think about trans people, when you think about people who use drugs, and then when you think about us who are also living with HIV, the only thing we just want to do is live a quality life. That's all we want. And I think we should never, ever forget that vision. And one thing about Prudence, why this day is so important, is that she was a visionary person. So with all the complexities and with all the struggles, she would always ask. One line she always used to say to me, advocacy and struggle is long. And we have to take it day by day, because it's a long journey. And we have to find moments where we celebrate the wins. And for me, today is a win. The fact that we are recognizing stigma as an issue in the HIV response, it's because of you. It's actually our work that the world today is recognizing that. And so Sibongile, in the moments when it's hard, when you are not resting, remember the wins and remember the road that we have to go. And so therefore, again, when we think about the HIV now stigma-related day that we are celebrating, let us think about the actions, right? We are part, in 2018, the civil society actually went to the UNAIDS PCP and actually called for a global partnership to eliminating all forms of HIV-related stigma. And this coalition has come together with communities and has come up with tools, has come up with interventions for countries. Even our governments have actually signed up. And in South Africa, actually our own government has actually pledged actually to make commitments in stigma reduction. So therefore, I think because they've made that commitment, therefore now the work is Sibongile and Sistandi, and I know it's difficult, you know, we need to think about what does it mean from an action point, and the global partnership provides that space. We sit in the global partnership as a global network, and what we've done is come up with tools to actually think about how, not to even think about, on how do we actually eliminate stigma in health, in community, in 6 settings, which is health, community, justice, workplace, individuals, and community. So we have the tools. We know what needs to be done on HIV stigma. And I'm not going to stand here, we know the statistics, you know, the fact that people are defaulting on treatment still says so much about HIV stigma in the clinics. You know, the fact that self-stigma is still a thing says something about the communities that we live in, because it means that people are not feeling safe in those communities, right? The fact that people cannot go to the police, right, when they are feeling discrimination, means there's so much work that we actually still need to do. And we have come together as the global partnership to provide that pathway. And I know, you know, Silo spoke about resources, Sibongile spoke about the struggles, but I think when we have the intention, you know, we know what we can do. And right now, as I said, we've got the tools, we've suggested the pathway. And right now, what we need to do, again, as a movement, is to work together to think about, so how do we make sure we implement this, right? Because in the next, we have how many years left? 4 years left. And Prudence was one person who was always thinking forward that, yes, we have 4 years left. And therefore, how do we make sure that we are serious and we actually call even our governments to account to say, what have you done when it comes to HIV-related stigma? And I know my South African comrades are very great at that. So I hope this day is also a foundation for the sector to think about stigma in a more action-orientated. And we talk about actually how do we then gather resources to implement these actions. And as the global network, we are one of the conveners of the global partnerships. We really want to support you in that. We work really closely with Mluleki on it. And I know Mluleki Napwa has been implementing some of the interventions in really dealing with with stigma. So therefore, I really just want to say, today is really an important day for all of us, because it's the first time that the world is actually recognizing stigma, HIV-related stigma. Discrimination, we do have, but discrimination is quite broad. But the fact that we're tackling stigma is really big. And we know that the HIV response translates to other responses. We know if the HIV people, if the HIV communities get it right, then it means it triples down to every other aspect. So really, I just wanted to thank you for that. And another last thing, Sister Andy, I just wanted to say, I feel the tiredness from all of us. And the one thing at GNP Plus we've been really talking about is how do we create spaces of rest and care for activists. And I just want to say to all of you, this is a conversation we are having because we understand the impact that this has on you. And you know, when we spoke about Prudence and the challenges that Prudence went through, you know, it's always sad for us to hear another activist that goes through that. And therefore, it's a conversation we are having with our partners globally to say, how do we support leaders? Because right now, we also need you guys to actually be healthy so that the struggle continues. You know, Bob Marley says, you have to live to fight another day. So I hope you do take care of yourself in the struggle. And some days, do take the care and do take the break. We can always fight tomorrow. So thank you very much.
Thank you, comrades. Spongile, thanks a lot. Comrades, without wasting of time, let me call Comrade Cindy, the Executive Director of PWN. Comrade, we are not like Gutisi Route, it's because of his Katisingane, and we have people who are taking flights back home, so we are worried about time. Sibenje sithi sibe bafushane but sikhulume all right. Comrade Cindy, can you please come forward and okay, Comrade Cindy, you can also address the issue of this slot while we are talking here. Thank you.
Thank you, Kokeli. I don't know kuthiwa ngikhuluma ngani nge-vision. Okay. All right. So la sikhuluma nge-vision. Engithi semzansi. uJojo unesikhathi sakhe ubuya phela aphinda abuye futhi. So ubesathatha i-break ke kodwa uzobuya nje khona manje. I-vision for this campaign go 2024, see South Africa, is very important. Today is the launch, but it's only the beginning. Many speakers have already mentioned that we shouldn't be talking about stigma on this day. We shouldn't use this day as a token, as a way of showing or window dressing that we are doing something, when in fact, throughout the year, we're not doing much. We could even be ourselves perpetuating stigma. So it's very important that we all ensure that we run programs. We all here come from institutions, different kinds of institutions. It's important that all of us make pledges relating to this campaign. It is important for the donor community to come up with resources on how to support this program forward. It is responsibility of the sector leaders to come up with a program for the year leading to this day. We don't want to get to zero HIV stigma day with numbers increasing. We want to get to zero HIV stigma day with numbers decreasing. If numbers are going up, we are going down. It means we are dying. Let's remember that. So let's all ensure that we build on the programs that we already have, especially within the PHIV sector. My comrades, I will call you out on this one. Stigma index is your brainchild. We first had the National Stigma Index for the country in 2014, and it was the leadership of the PHIV sector that initiated that. We did not know in this country the levels of stigma. We knew there was stigma. We could see with our own perceptions that it's reducing, but we were not sure how much it's reducing and what kinds of stigmas are reducing and what kind of stigmas are still perpetuating in our communities and within ourselves. So that study was able to enlighten the whole country on the levels of stigma. To our surprise, again, with our push, the study was not for TB, it was for HIV. We said there's data there about stigma. We actually had to fight for the data on stigma to be published alongside with the data for HIV. It wasn't natural. So in a struggle for change, nothing is natural. Everything we need to claim and we need to demand. And that's the message I want to get across. We did the 2.0 stigma in 3 provinces. We haven't done the 9 provinces. We are 18 months into the grant period for that project. They are delaying tactics from left, right, and center. One of our calls is to ensure that we implement the stigma index survey this year. And we put all our powers together to ensure that we do it. The previous results that we have are not for us to sit on. We've done the 2014, we've done the 2.0, we've done the heart of the stigma. We know how young people born and living with HIV are struggling to a point where they are suicidal, they default. So this is an issue of saving lives. Let's take stigma seriously. We need a national reduction program. We need an HIV stigma reduction program that looks into the different key populations. We need to have a stigma reduction programs that is specifically for women living with HIV and how women living with HIV experience stigma and need to deal with stigma. And we need all of you to support us as part of continuing the legacy of Prudence Mabele. Even in the 2014 stigma index, it was not natural for PWN to be there. I was the project manager for that stigma. She came after, bulldozing. She kicked the door and she got in. So we must never fool ourselves and think that the struggle is easy. And we should never feel guilty or uncomfortable saying things that seem unnatural. And since it is our platform, Sistandi, sizoyisebenzisa, angeke sidlalise. Ngizocela ukuyisebenzisa le platform to share a bit of struggle Prudence with into the stigma nama programs HIV close to insuku zakhe zokugcina. One of the speakers mentioned ukuthi Prudence died in struggle. My last physical engagement with her was at the AIDS conference in 2016. Snow Range, another hidden hero behind the scenes. Ranger does so much, but she's never recognized publicly. It's seen, but it's not known that she's there, not sleeping every night. So I remember Ranger calling me saying, Cindy, Prudence is going to miss a flight. She won't connect to Sweden. I'm like, yo, what are we going to do? So I was close to Prudence and I went to go look for her. I'm like, you're going to miss your flight. We need to leave now. Where are your bags? Let's go. And before we got to the bags, I was asking her, but Prudence, why are you going there? It's so cold. You know, you're still recovering. Because we were talking months before, and mostly in that month when she passed away, We would have late night conversations about the struggles she was facing, about the lack of support she was receiving, and the stigma she felt at that conference, where everyone, when they met her, they asked her, "Are you well? Are you well?" She even spoke out about it in one of the sessions. She's like, "Hey, ngikhathele manje, lonke ngibuza ukuthi nginjani." Yabo. So her response was, "I have to go to Sweden to raise funds for PWN. You know how we are struggling. And also I have friends in Sweden. I'm tired. I need a break. I need to be around people who care for me." That's what she said. And that was my last physical interaction with her. For me, it makes me very emotional because I met Prudence not here in this struggle. I actually met her in 2002 at Helen Joseph Hospital. I was taking my uncle there. We were sitting on the benches, waiting our turn to see the doctor, because that was one of the few hospitals in the country that offers CD4 counts. So we're sitting all there quietly, everyone shy, with shame. She walks in wearing a suit, bold, speaking loud. She's walking in with this woman who was so quiet, who was so shy. They sit down literally opposite us like this. I had so many eye contact with her, and I was looking at this woman and I'm thinking, what a powerful woman, what a bold woman who talks about HIV publicly, you know, in 2002. Little did I know I would meet another woman who was just as powerful in Durban. So I joined TAC during that period. And then we met a few months later at TAC. And then I'm like, "I know you." And then she's like, "Ungazelaphi?" And then I'm like, "No, I know you from Helen Joseph Hospital." And that's how we first, connected. And then at the TAC, we really had to fight for antiretrovirals. Stigma was rife. And abantu abanjengo Prudence supported young women. I was a young woman, I was 19 years, turning 20 at that time. They really supported young women like us back then to be bold. In 2006, I would have not written an affidavit against the state of this country. An affidavit that was clearly saying to the president of this country, to the deputy president, to the minister of correctional services, Umlambo Ngcuka, not Umlambo Ngcuka, uNgconde, to the minister of health, to the commissioner of Westville prison. This is what's going on in Westville prison. We have met with the inmates. I personally have had a meeting, and this is what I was able to observe. That affidavit, TAC was a co-applicant in that affidavit. Judge Nicholson quoted that affidavit. That was a winning affidavit in the court case against President Mbeki, who was a denialist at the time, in the interest of the prison, the inmates in Westville Correctional Services. During that time, it was the stigma in the prison was so rife, but it was women like Prudence who gave us the courage. We stood together with male inmates. They would go on a hunger strike if we were campaigning outside. So it was the courage of women like Prudence. And there's a life of Prudence most people in this space did not know, that she was a feminist. Prudence was one in our feminist space. She was one of the women who are dealing with visible power, challenging visible power, and she was part of the movement that was uprising, talking on issues that are uprising. And some of us were women that were dealing with invisible form of power. If you know the feminist power framework, we were dealing with invisible power, meaning we had to go underground and organize within the women's movement. And I would have not had courage to go to Malawi in 2007 and support a process that led to a development of a campaign called OBOL, which now has over 8,000 members of women living with HIV in the country who fought for the country to change its D4T. Prudence was part of those jazz movement builders in Southern Africa who did that work. ICW is not here today. It was part of her family as well. So when we come to next year, we want to see more of examples of how to fight stigma, because the life of Prudence Mabele gives us clues on how to fight and reduce stigma in this country. So let's take the time to reflect on her life. As Positive Women's Network, we will definitely take the lead in pulling together all the stories with the support of SANEC, starting today with the cloth in front of you. This is where you can either share your own personal story of dealing with stigma and the kind of stigma that you dealt with. It can be about your struggle, but it can also be about how you have triumphed. It can also be stories of our family members who lost due to who we lost due to stigma. And we want to print these cloths and share them in all our communities. In the SANEC family, we have SANEC at a national level. We want the PCAs to get involved, the DACs, the LACs, civil society structures in all those places, all 18 sectors. We want everyone who identifies with this family to have their message on such a cloth. With SANEC, we will coordinate how these cloths will be printed. We are calling out, we know that SANEC is a multi-sectoral approach entity that is coordinating the country's response. It's not only us as civil society, government is here as well. The business community is here as well. So we want the private sector of SANEC to sponsor the printing and transportation of all these cloths, and also the purchase of the markers and logistics relating to collecting and sewing these clothes together. We will identify women living with HIV in this country to sew these clothes together, and we will frame them so that we develop the biggest quilt that this country and the world has ever seen. Because we know that if we don't talk about stigma, we're not doing much to fight stigma. So the cloth was something that Prudence used as a way of communicating in a manner that was not confrontational or direct, that was safe, and we would like to use it in her memory as one of the tools that we can give community members to communicate. They can write, they can draw, they can sew. You can be creative and express yourself based on your own talents or gifts. So, my comrade, lastly, and I'm emphasizing this point, I mentioned it earlier, we've been fighting here at SANEC a lot, Ranger. To some point, we felt like, you know what, let's just repackage this meeting. Other governments are adopting this day. Our own government is silent. They are not even here. They did not even send a message, nothing. So why are we putting forward a facade that this is a country launch? Rather, we should say this is a national civil society launch that is a sort of like, how can I say it? That is sort of like a springboard for the actual launch of this country next year, where we see the commitment of the country and we see the South African government actually adopting this day as it has with TB, as it has with HIV, and we see it in the health calendar. And until that is done, I think it is safe for us as civil society to assume that they are not taking the issue of stigma as seriously as we do. In that note, my comrade, ngiyabonga, amandla.
Amandla. Amandla. Phansi nge-South African government phansi. Phansi nge-Minister of Health Office phansi. Amandla. You know, Comrade Cindy, what you're saying is very true. I'm sitting here and I'm asking myself to say, other governments are honoring this day in the name of our own. But our own government, they don't take us serious. And this is the experience that we are experiencing every time, especially as people living with HIV. On the TB day, we had to fight with the minister because he decided not to honor the community meeting that was organized by people living with HIV. And he denied, he disagreed to apologize until we forced him with the Premier of Northwest to apologize. And we were seen as if we were dramatic. In Durban, in the march, this march, what we were calling it, love picketing, we had to drag them. We had to put our foot down. We had to say, we are not giving our memorandum to a mayor. This is the national march. We want the DP or the minister. And the minister, because he remembered what happened in Northwest, he came. But he was dragged to that space. So if we have to drag them every time, we will do so. As tired as we are, as mentally depressed as we are, we'll continue to fight. And we'll continue to fight for recognition of people living with HIV. We'll continue to fight for our rights as people living with HIV. We'll continue to the recognition of women living with HIV. It is wrong for our government to talk about prudence when it suits them. It is wrong for our government to talk about our issues on the TP Day, on the World AIDS Day, after that they've forgotten about us. Even at AIDS councils, they're not there. Mabele is here. Most of our plenary meetings, government officials and ministers and MECs are not there. So they don't take us serious. So it's time that we reorganize and we go back to the streets and remind them that we are still here. And unfortunately, 2024, it's next year. It's just around the corner. We have power. We managed to change the status quo in South Africa. We managed to let people access to life. We managed to have more than 5 million people on ARVs as people living with HIV, as communities. So if they have to take us serious, we have to let them take us serious. And it's in our hands and it's in our call to do so. So comrades, I think we have exhausted so many times. That's the thing with activists, we don't respect time, unfortunately. And that is a very bad culture, but sifike kunjalo and nathi siyaqhubeka kunjalo. So I will call my chairperson, the chairperson of people living with HIV sector, Comrade Mluleki Zazini, with the way forward. And then after that, I will ask our Prof. Dr. Mfundisi Rev. Jasi to think about the prayer and the closure. Yeah, I'm not sure, maybe figure large. I'm not sure, but that something is gone.
Amandla. Gawethu. Phansi ngestigma ska HIV and AIDS phansi. Long live the spirit of Comrade Prudence, long live. Amandla. Comrades Wash, GNP Plus. I think let me say maybe it was just an error for HMP Plus if we were under development partners. Because when I raised it within the task team that there's a need for a voice at an international level. And then I suggested HMP Plus. So we apologize for that. Comrade Cindy, you see this rose to Inapwa family, it means a lot. But allow me to pass it on to Comrade Titi. Comrade Titi is one of the comrades, or seven and Comrade Tupru in the early 90s. And is one of the comrades that I look up to. Today, I'm this leader because of you, Comrade Titi. So while Usapila, let me recognize you. So allow me to give you this rose. Chief. Eh, Comrades Bosch, and this is I want to come return. Maybe I will take 3 minutes if again. Oh, yes, Comrade Katleko, can you please come here, Chief? Yes, Comrade Katleko is one of the comrades who was vocal around the issues of sex work, especially tackling. He is always calling us as HIV sector leadership to continue supporting them. So on that note, thanks, Comrade Bosch, on behalf of a global network of people living with HIV and AIDS and the sector in the country. We recognize your advocacy, comrade. Thank you. We should. Thanks, comrades. I think I'm one of the leaders. We had a privilege to work with comrade Prudence. Everyone knows in this country, early 2000s, HIV networks used to attack each other in public, not work as a unit. It took comrade Vuisega Tubola, no comrade Prudence Mabele, and Umluleki Zazini, to reach an agreement that we must stop these things of fighting and prioritize people living with HIV. Hence, there's this unity of people living with HIV sector in the country. People called us by names that were sellouts, who were selling the struggle. But we said, no, let's continue to do the right thing. That's why we have this sector today. I think in honoring her legacy, Comrade Prudence, we need to advocate. Comrade Zilo, we must not be shy to talk about resources. For us to reach those communities, to address that thing in the Eastern Cape, we need resources. So we will continue, comrades. It's not a secret. The HIV sector is going to continue to advocate to be the next PR in this country. We will advocate in honoring Ilikaska Comrade Prudence by making sure that a global partnership to eliminate stigma and discrimination in this country comes alive. Comrade Bosch, when we say we lack a political will in this country, it's like we are exaggerating issues. It is evident. Yes, we did it in Northwest during TPD, where we demonstrated as people living with HIV, demanding the premier of that province to apologize before he take a podium. Today, we invited our government to be part of this commemoration. They are not here. They are not here. It says we are losing slowly by slowly a political will in this country. So we will engage with them through the coordinating committee of SANAC Civil Society Forum to do the right thing. Because in other countries, they have made a commitment that at this day, it will be on the calendar date. Especially US have started that. So we need to follow because Prudence was ours. I think we need to continue speaking out against stigma. Doing that, Comrade Maps, in the next term of the SANAC Civil Society Forum, let us stop saying issues of HIV and AIDS is for people living with HIV and sector. We need to take ownership. We need to see in all 18 sectors, issues of HIV stigma, be integrated in their programs. We will reach out to the president's office to talk to him, engage him to be the champion of HIV stigma. Each and every speech he's making, he must make it sure that he addresses issues of stigma. That's what we're going to do. One of the speakers said, let's own her work through action. I think in our comrade, Cindy, we have started that. And I think it will be important. I thought you will touch on it. Last week, we have signed a 5-year MOU with the National Department of Social Development. EPWN was part of that program to address issues of social behavioral change and psychosocial support. So we need to act in honoring the legacy of Comrade Prudence. It must not be only on lip services. One thing I admire about Comrade Prudence was issues of JIPA principle. She was very vocal, and you can't divorce the struggle around the stigma and the JIPA principle. She was very vocal, and we continue doing that. And thanks, Comrade Maps, for coming up from the civil society to stand up, assisting us as the HIV sector on issues of JIPA principle. Now, through your office, we'll be able to have a person who's going to coordinate our work. We appreciate that, Comrade Maps. Moving forward, comrades, in honoring the legacy of Comrade Prudence, we are going to form a steering committee that will look at a program for a launch, a national launch that will include the government next year, where the SANAC Secretariat will play its role in terms of the coordination. But the HIV sector, including your organization, Comrade Prudence, will form part of that steering committee. We want to see a big program. In this country, we're wasting a lot of resources. We embark on national campaigns in big stadiums, erect big tents, wasting a lot of money on issues that are not making impact. I think in honoring Comrade Prudence, we need to move away from that and do the right thing. Invest in right programs to address issues related to stigma. I think in honoring Comrade Prudence, let us make it sure that people living with HIV and key population do have access in healthcare services. We must remove these barriers. We must address attitudes of healthcare workers in healthcare settings so that our people can go to facilities and get their medication. We need to do annual memorial lectures, comrades, next year. We need to do that. This gap between us as current leaders and previous leaders and activists, we must close that. We must close that. It was not Prudence. If we say we want to honor Comrade Prudence, let us call those comrades on board and work together. In those memorial lectures, we must see those comrades taking a lead together with us, dedicating it on HIV zero stigma. The other thing that we need to do, I think during the funeral of Comrade Prudence, President Ramaphosa, by then he was a deputy president, he said, in honoring Comrade Prudence, we need to have a statue for Comrade Prudence. We never erected that, we never seen that. And we appreciated that as people living with the HIV sector. So we need to engage with his office to do the right thing. Comrade Silo, you were correct, comrade. We did engage on this. There's a need to have or to establish a trust fund for Ilikaska comrade Prudence. That will benefit her family. That will benefit her organization, EPWN, to do programs that seeks to address HIV stigma. Sanang, Secretariat, it's a bit, CEO is not here, but Urelzo and other staff and senior managers are here. And the coordinating committee through the leadership of Comrade UMAPS are here. We will engage you. We will engage you to assist us, even the development partners that are here, to set up that trust fund. Next year, when we come together to launch the national commemoration for Comrade to Opro, we need to report on this. There's a trust fund in place so that all people can contribute it, so that the family Prudence can benefit on that, so that the organization can benefit to that. In closing, this way forward, comrades, the 2.0 stigma index. I know we did it in 3 provinces, Mpumalanga, Free State, Nase KZN, and supported by CTC. I know that. I've been engaging with this office, the Secretariat, Rencia knows about that. To say GNP Plus gave us a small fund to respond to some of the findings, the 2.0 stigma index. And we said, we'll take it to a Free State among in only 1 region. And the 2.0 stigma index was done in 3 provinces in 6 districts. So we engaged this office to assist us. And they said, yes, there is money for human rights and stigma that we can support you. But you are too slow, comrades. You are too slow. People are dying there. People are hesitating to go to healthcare facilities to get their medication because of stigma. Please give us resources so that we can address these barriers. So E2.0 stigma index, the national one that we're expecting to embark on HIV sector, we are making a call to say we need to dedicate it in the name of Comrade Prudence Mabele. We are also calling a civil society forum, all 18 sectors. I'm repeating this, all 18 sectors to come together with the HIV sector and fight HIV stigma in this country. Amandla, Gawetu, phansi ngestigma ska HIV and AIDS, phansi. Phansi ngestigma ska HIV and AIDS, phansi. Long live with the spirit of Comrade Prudence Mabele, long live. Amandla.
Thank you very much, program directors. Ngicela uba serious for a second, just to respect the family ka Prudence. We, as a family ka Prudence, we love you so much. We are not organizing this fundraiser ngegama lika Prudence. Sikwenza lokhu njengama politicians by a commemorator previous leaders. Fortunately, there's an ongoing discussion within Christian scholars about death, about life after death. We're in disagreement as Abefundis. Some of us, they don't believe that there's life after death, but we are consulting Jewish communities, and Jewish communities nabenkolo yakwantu they believe good people don't die because life cannot die and death cannot live. Prudence is part of us, and she will remain part of us. What you buried there was just a body, and that body is no longer there. Umhlaba wabuyela emhlabeni. Ubomi bakhe, Prudence, her soul and spirit zisekhona phakathi kwethu. That is why I'm refusing kube nabantu abathi ama ancestors are evil spirits. There is no such a thing. Umabalane uyibeke clear that Prudence is in heaven, and it is true. Those mhlambe bazothi she's in hell, maybe because of LGBTI nobungoma and stuff. If life cannot die and death cannot live, it means our ancestors are angels, including her. Because if his soul and spirit esele nathi, that means it's just a feeling uba in hell. It's not a real thing. But it's a discussion for another day. We really appreciate your presence as a family, Prudence. We'll always remember her all the time. And I must assure you, we won't allow anyone to organize any institution to corrupt her name. Prudence wayengumuntu we corruption. Prudence taught us one thing, Reverend Zoe, to disagree. Manisibona as a sect that disagree, we're not fighting. If you take that as a fighting, you're on your own. So Tugana Tina following day, we kiss each other, hug each other, isele nawe, and you don't care. And we move on. Because when we disagree Tina as a sector, we progress. Hlalani na nibrashane, pretend each other, Tina, when we disagree, we progress. So manisibona si disagree as a sector, you must know we're fixing the country. Prudence taught us that attitude. Before I pray, Prudence invited me and Steve in her house. What una wine? Of course, we went there for that wine. As we were drinking that wine, Prudence walhlala phansi nginipholile namhlanje. Ni weak, Steve. Nalo mfundisi wakho ni weak. And manje iwine seyihlela ekhanda anginayi energy yalo sisi. What phuzani phela? Ngizodila ngani namhlanje ni weak. So she was that person. Let us stand up, please. Bacimela abangacimeli. uNkulunkulu uyanizwa sithoba amakhanda ethu. uNkulunkulu siyabonga. We really appreciate this day. Siyabonga uNkulunkulu ukuthi uPrudence usekhona ezimpilweni zethu. Siyabonga ukuthi she is still part of us. Siyabonga ukuthi uhleli nawe ngoba sonke siza kuwe. Sibonga nefamily yakho ubanika amandla. Nabantwana abakhulayo from this family. Ubanike wisdom of taking care of this legacy. Sibonga uNkulunkulu wethu nabangasekho bakubo abahleli naye to take care of her. Amathongo akubo, the angels of that family. Siyawabonga uNkulunkulu wethu and sibabonga bonke ngoJesu wethu osaphilayo. uNkulunkulu sibonga iSANAC for organizing this event. Positive Women's Network, including the entire sect and sectors, for bringing us together. uNkulunkulu wethu wonke umuntu kule ndawo ubuso bakho uphakamisele emizini yabo for quality life for everyone who's living with HIV. Sikubonga konke uNkulunkulu wethu oku ngegama lomfoweli wethu Yesu Kristu. Ibandla lithi amen.
Oh, khohla ukuthandazela ukudla. Okay, yes, comrade, thank you very much. This is almost the end of the program for today, but I will ask you like to remain seated as we are going to the unveiling. I think it's around the corner here. I will ask the family of Comrade Prudence, then others will follow. Rensha will okay. Yeah, Rensha will, she's outside, she will direct the family where are they going. And I will also call upon Comrade with Ref Zo. Okay, yeah. Oh, yes. Okay, he's already outside waiting for the family. Oh, I'm not sure. Yes, but paper, yes. Okay, yes. Then the others will follow after the family outside. And yeah, and people. Yeah, thank you, comrade. Comrade, where's Ntutugo? Can you please lead the family outside? And Busiso, can you please go outside so that Ref Nzo he's waiting for you outside. Comrade Cindy, ngaphandle. Angeke iyo unveilwa director wethu angekho kuyo. Okay. Angeke ayo unveil ungekho. Yokuthini Mike program ipheli. Yeah. Okay.
So maseba phumile bonke comrades singalandela ne. After family it's out and the people who are called, I think also we can follow.
And we want to capture this good on this day. There was this happening. I need to know, no, President Ramaphosa summons when he was giving call in our country. When just